Hey, everybody, this is Dennis Brown, former San Francisco 49er and Super Bowl champ. I'm here on the 49er Weekly Show, The Grueling Truth, with Dexter and Matt.
Garoppolo, deep down the middle, that's a liftoff. Shanahan and Jimmy, Bill in Montana, speaking for the Empire, salute from Santana. Yeah, handoff, down the middle, beast through the D-line and made him look brittle. Out of nowhere, Sherman in the corner, 60 other way, huh? Kings of California. Every breath, tribute to the greatest, Dwight Clark in our heart since the catch when he made it.
As we build, brick by brick, no imitation, just be patient while we reppin' the mountain. We are the 49ers, who are we? We're the 49ers.
Welcome, everybody, to the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies. The future in sports medicine. Check that out at thegruelingtruth.com. I am one of your co-hosts, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in the other co-host for our show, former 49ers running back, Super Bowl 29 champion, Dexter Carter.
Hey, Matt, great to be back with you again, man. Got a great podcast today, man. Got one of our great 49ers, one of the best linemen we ever had, Derrick Deese, and from L.A., and looking forward to having him on the show.
Most definitely. We had a great show, so why don't we just go ahead and welcome in our guests, and we'll get right to the show. I'd like to welcome in former 49ers guard, Super Bowl 29 champion, Derrick Deese. How are you, Derrick?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for being here today. We're going to get right into our OTA review, just a real quick review as to the current news and what's going on. We got a few guys injured, but you know what? Everyone can take a breath because this is the time of year. If you're going to have minor injuries, it is okay because you want to get everybody healthy for training camp. So other than Jimmy Ward, everyone will be ready to go for training camp, including Nick Bosa and Jason Verrett. So it looks like they're planning on having everyone back for training camp coming up in just a couple of weeks. And so the problem is with this time of year, because there's so little going on, fans and media get a little bit edgy, and they actually keep track of practice stats. Like, for instance, Jimmy Garoppolo goes 4 for 7 in practice with a touchdown and an interception. It doesn't matter. It is just practice. Obviously, you want to be perfect. But here are the highlights. Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy. Third-year receiver Trent Taylor looks to be all the way back from his 2018 back injury that caused many to question whether or not he was even a good pick. But take it to the bank. Taylor will flourish this year, similar to how he finished in 2017 playing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Richard Sherman says he is all the way back from his leg injuries and feels great, finally playing on what he says are 2 legs. And Jason Verrett also looks healthy. And if he stays that way, that will be one heck of a 1-2 punch. And lastly, we'll talk about the defensive line. Nick Bosa and Dee Ford have gotten all the headlines, but Solomon Thomas looks like he's going to be able to show why he was drafted number 3 overall in 2017. And he's overcome some mental health hurdles since losing his sister. And DeForest Buckner is noted for having, quote, "I can't be blocked," and written on the first page of a team meeting notebook. And he looks like he's going to have a big year. So, Dex, I don't know, what do you think? What's kind of standing out for you at these OTAs?
I think there's so many things standing out. You know, yes, I'm an offensive guy, but I'm just gonna hit some headlines that I'm excited about. One, for years we've talked about, man, we either got to replace everybody in the secondary or a couple of them. You know, so the defense can be a quality defense. But the way you increase productivity in the secondary, one is increased talent, but secondly, when you have a defensive line that we see over the years that has improved and the talent level has picked up, you know, the number 1 draft pick, you know, how that is going to help the back end, the secondary. Because when you have pressure on the quarterback and you get him out of the pocket and those DBs don't have to hold those receivers as long, all of a sudden you get knocked down passes, you get interceptions, and the productivity overall just increases because of the defensive front. So I think the quality over the entire defense has improved. So I'm really excited because when you take Kyle Shanahan, who in his best years averaged 38 points a game, and he's got the players now within his offense like Tevin Coleman coming from Atlanta, whom he coached. Now he's getting the guys in his offense that fit his style of play calling, oh, my goodness. I tell you, the defense is better, but they're not going to have to, hold the defense to 38 points. Trust me. We're going to score 38 points, and they're going and the offense is going to score a whole lot of points. So it's going to be really, really exciting because you've got Garoppolo back, you've got Jerick McKinnon and Matt Breida, Tevin at the running back spot, and that offensive line, man, tell you what, Derek can talk about some of the great, guys we had, including himself, back, when our offense was very, very productive back in the day. So this is really exciting on both sides of the ball for this 49er team going forward in 2019-20.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the defensive line is going to be real key. I think nobody's really too worried about the offense that Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, but as long as that pass rush is good, I would agree. I think the secondary will be improved, and we'll be able to get a good sneak peek into training camp coming up soon, so we'll have another show coming up close to training camp. So with that, we're going to transition right into our special guest. Derek, we're really glad that you're here today, and we want to bring up a couple of things about your career and do a little reminiscing, if that is cool with you.
Sure. Thanks for having me. No problem.
All right. So we'll start in the early years. I know that you went to Culver City High School in California, and you're in the Culver City High School Hall of Fame, and then you went on to El Camino College, and then finally to USC. Tell us a little bit about how your love for football started in your life, and who had the biggest influence on your game.
It's interesting. I went to play football in high school because that was just the thing to do. When you get to high school, it's like you gotta be either on the football team or the basketball team. And back then, I signed up to be on the football team and play. And I never really saw myself as being a professional athlete. My goal was really just to play football to get an education. And that wasn't really until my senior year, because when I first got out of the league, when I was getting out of high school, I didn't get as many offers as I thought I was going to get. Actually had none, which turned out to be because of my high school coach. But I was fortunate enough to have a guy that saw me play for junior college, and he said, hey, I think you can play in this junior college over here. And I was like, okay, but I think I just want to go be a cop, because back then you only needed a high school diploma to be a police officer. So I was like, I'll just go be an officer. That's what I wanted to do anyway. He was like, nah, you need to come check it out. So my mom said, hey, let's go check it out. And we checked out the school, and the guy on the spot said, hey, if you give me a year and a half, I promise you'll be able to go to any school you pretty much want to go to that takes junior college transfers. And that guy's name was Coach Engel. And so I said to him, I said, yeah, no problem. I'll try it. So I went there. A year and a half later, I was recruited by every D1 in the country except for Notre Dame and Penn State. Those were the only two schools that did not offer JC transfers. And I picked USC. And from there went to USC, had a coach there named John Matsko, who after my second or third practice said, if you just let me coach you can make some money in this game. And I let him coach me, I guess is what you want to say. And I ended up not being drafted. I had an injury my senior year and ended up signing as a free agent to the Niners. Ended up playing at the Niners for 12 years, and then going to Tampa for 2. So
that's awesome.
It was a long road. It was a hard road. When I left El Camino, I ended up getting put into the El Camino Junior College Hall of Fame. I ended up getting put into the California JC Football Coaches Hall of Fame, and then into the Junior College Hall of Fame of California. So there's under 200 people in that Hall of Fame, and so to be in that Hall of Fame is a special deal, and it means a lot. So and then to play have a career that you played in the NFL so long, it says a lot about work ethic and you know, how to get there. And that it doesn't really, you don't have to be a high drafted guy or even a drafted player to succeed in the league. You just have to have determination and be willing to work at it.
Right. Now, you mentioned, your difficult road to the NFL, and that's definitely the truth. I know that you went to a 49ers mini camp after the 92 draft. Tell us a little bit about the great Bob McKittrick, a long-time and legendary 49ers offensive coach, and what impact he had on your career as you were getting started.
It had a great impact on it. You know, the interesting thing about that is that there's a backstory to that. So, like I said, I was looked at out of high school by a coach at a junior college, and when I got to the Niners for my first meeting, we're in the lineman meeting, and I'm listening to Bob McKittrick. I'm listening to him talk and how he's coaching, and I'm like, man, this guy sounds so familiar. And the way he was coaching, the way he was talking, the things he was saying, I'm like, man, it sounds so familiar. So I get out of there and I go back to the hotel, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, he sounds like my junior college coach. Well, it turned out that my junior college coach played at Stanford and had his first year out of Stanford. He was with the Niners and coached by Bob McKittrick. And so that was his influence on coaching. And so it was amazing to sit there and listen and have him talk. But the bigger thing is Bob didn't believe in having oversized linemen and overweight linemen. You know, he wanted guys that were in shape and guys that could move and athletic. And he was a special coach because, you know, he would tell you, like, hey, don't waste a draft pick on a top lineman. I want to find the guys that people are missing. And he was real good at that. He would find guys that had chips on their shoulders, guys that were overlooked, guys that people didn't really want, and then he would, you know, say, hey, look, they didn't believe in you. I do. And he would use his techniques to teach you, and those techniques actually worked for you at being that size. And, I mean, he was a big influence on me, you know, a real big influence. And it goes even, like I said, it goes even further because he was an influence on the guy who really coached me out of high school that developed me into the lineman I became.
That's remarkable.
That is awesome story, man.
So obviously, you know, the highlight for both of you and why it's so great to have you both on at the same time is that 1994 season, that special season that so many Niners fans remember. I mean, for me, I was a senior in high school. I've been watching the Niners for a good 10 years, lived in Wisconsin all my life, but I still paid very close attention to the Niners when I was 9 years old. And that 94 season meant so much to me. Dexter will tell you all about that. But, you know, Derek, you started after week 1, I believe. And I think you started the rest of the way for the whole year. Right. I ended up starting after week 1. I played in the first game. That was the game. It was Monday night. The guy in front of me had an injury, and I ended up going in playing. And I was fortunate enough to be able to play. And that was one of the things McKittrick would say is like, hey, here's your chance, here's your shot. Make it where it's hard for them to have me take you off the field. And so that's what, you know, I went in and did, and I ended up being a staple at that point. And so, you know, I look at that season as one, there was only a few players that had changed on the offense. 2, a lot of good guys that came in that were young drafted players, and we were able to take over at that point. You bring up the young guys. You know, the block that I remember the most from the regular season was the block that you put on Rondell Jones in Denver and absolutely obliterated him, and it sprung rookie William Floyd for a score. Right. You know, it's like that whole team was put together. It was a phenomenal team. You know, we had a swagger about ourselves that we knew, like, when we walked on the field, like, you already knew, like, if we didn't win that game, it wasn't because you were better than us. It was because we made some mistakes. And there was games where we would walk on and we got
challenged a bit in the beginning of the season, but at one point we go on like a 10-game winning streak where we walked on the field. You were beat as soon as the kickoff happened. It was over. It wasn't even worth you showing up. And that was just, one, it was the way that you practiced and the way that you believed, but two, it was the way the players kind of took over that team. And, you know, I was fortunate to be a part of so many, I would say, Hall of Fame guys that aren't even in the Hall of Fame that should be in the Hall of Fame from that team, and be able to learn from guys off of that team, not just from the offensive standpoint, but from the defensive standpoint also, and be blessed to be part of something that was so special. And you actually, you know, when you're trying to work and obtain a goal and win a Super Bowl and become a world champion, man, it's a difficult thing to do. And you have guys like, we had a guy on the team that he hadn't been back in 10 years, you know. And so for him to come be a part of that team and then be like, yeah, 10 years ago he was actually playing in the Super Bowl and then winning it, to being back now thinking like he was going to be there every year. Well, that's the same kind of the process that I had. Was like, oh man, my third year in the league, and I'm gonna be back. You know, I'll be back 3 or 4 more times. It doesn't work that way. It's a difficult thing to do. So when you have a team like the Patriots and they go back and forth, or you have a team like at the time Buffalo who was going to the Super Bowl over and over, they just weren't winning it. I mean, it's a special thing even though you're not winning it, but it's a difficult thing to accomplish.
Well, here's a question for both of you. You know, the thing that I think everyone really remembers about the '94 season, around that time, it was Dallas and the Niners and everybody else. You know, how big was it to play in those legendary Dallas games, especially in the '94 game in Candlestick when the Niners were able to get past Dallas? And then also, stepping on the field as a young player in a Super Bowl. You know, both of you, go ahead and describe, you know, one at a time, like, you know, what was like playing in those games and being a part of all that.
Yeah, if I could hit that first, Derek. One, I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan, so I was really conflicted early on. Now, it didn't take me long to realize where my allegiance was, but those early 90s, we played in 3 straight NFC games, and I'm going to go back to 1990 so I can put together my feelings of losing, you know, 2 out of 3 NFC Championship games against them. As a rookie, I came in, and the 49ers had just won back-to-back Super Bowls, and Derek hit on how hard it is to win these Super Bowls. Well, he mentioned New England, you know, which definitely was a dynasty, but and then the Bills, who went, as he said, but didn't win, but you got to give them credit for going. Well, prior to, the 94 season, but prior to that, the 4 Super Bowls that the 49ers won, they were a dynasty, and that is not easy to do, to go to every Super Bowl and win it, you know, and be the first to win 5. That was incredible. But in 1990, we get to the NFC Championship game, and the game is literally over with 2 minutes to go. And, you know, unfortunately, we turned the ball over, and Hostetler drives the ball down with 6 seconds left. They kicked the ball, a field goal, and they beat us by 1, I believe. Well, anyway, the game was so over that we get in the locker room, and they still got the champagne in there. They still got the shirts, the hats saying, you know, 49ers NFC champion, and it put in perspective just how difficult it is to win, you know, to even get to the Super Bowl, much less win it. Now, all of a sudden, I get another opportunity, not the next year, but in 1992, to go to the NFC Championship game, 93, 94, and then 92, 93, we lose to Dallas. So I was very, very disheartened, didn't think that, you know, I felt like Dan Marino that, hey, we were never going to get there again. Then all of a sudden in 94, we played Dallas, and we played them, and I think it was December or early January where, and Derek, remind me if I'm correct, I think I'm correct, that was the rainy season. Seems like every year in December it rained a lot, we were playing Dallas, and all of a sudden, the field is muddy. Well, that year, of course, we brought in some heavy hitters. I mean, from Ricky Jackson to Richard Dent, to Ken Norton to Deion Sanders. We brought in everybody. And you know what? It was enough talent to finally get past Dallas. But I tell you what, the talent that was on that field reminded me of one thing. The Miami-Florida State game when we played in 1987, and there was literally 60 guys on that field between both teams that ended up being not just contributors but very good players in the NFL. Well, that NFC Championship game, the third year of the trilogy, man, what we did to win in front of the Candlestick fans, man, the 49er faithful was incredible. And it was just a great effort by every single, person, to finally beat them, in the third attempt in 3 straight years to get to the Super Bowl. And everybody back then knew if you won the NFC Championship, you were going to win the Super Bowl. So that's what I remember. It was just an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you already knew, like, hey, if I win this, I'm in. You know what I mean? And that was the key. So, it was hurtful. My first 2 years not to get there, but my third year to actually be a participant, be a starter, contribute more so than I did the first 2 years, and that made it well worth it. And like I said, there's a bond that you have with those guys that you never forget.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome experience that will forever, live and tell the stories. And, and Derrick and I both are in a similar situation where, Derrick was a great, great player. And, being in the Hall of Fame of the California Junior College, et cetera, the high school, where he earned it. And to see both of us have kids, and to see my oldest and his oldest at this point, I believe it's his oldest, following in our footsteps, playing college ball, man. I don't know about Derrick, but you know what? That's a very humbling feeling that, I don't know if they consciously think that they want to follow in Dad's footsteps, but to see that they're, laying their own, path and, have the work ethic to even get to college to play the game is something that I credit, Derrick as a father and, and surely his son, to even get to that level and have an opportunity to maybe even father that, as they go through their career.
Yeah, that's a big thing, especially since a lot of football players say they don't want their kids playing the game. I wasn't one of those guys. I let my kids decide what they want to do. They want to play sports, right. They play sports. If they don't, they don't. I just want them to be the best at whatever they're going to do. I have one that really doesn't. He played high school basketball for 2 years. He played at the varsity level his last 2 years as a junior and a senior. But he's a 4.1 GPA. My oldest is is playing college ball. He has 2 years left. He'll have a lot of time to play this year. It's actually in Northern California, so it's a thing where I look at I'm proud as a father to have my kids just be successful at whatever it is they're trying to be successful at. I think
right.
You have some parents that live through their kids. I'm fortunate and blessed that I don't have to be one of those parents, and I don't have to live through my kids. I lived it. I've done it. I can tell you how to do it. I can't tell you how to get the silver spoon. So I can't tell you hey, you're going to be drafted number 1 and you're going to, get all this money and this and that, or you're not really going to have to do a lot of work. I can only tell you how to get there through work ethic. I can tell you how to get there through determination. I can tell you that you have to put in more than somebody else does, and I know those things. And so for my kids to listen to some of that stuff and understand it and then go do it and then watch them become successful with it, it's a great feeling.
Well, I'm sure he's proud of you, extremely proud of you, and I know just listening to you how proud you are of him and all your other kids.
Yeah, without doubt. Waiting to see. I'm lucky right now, in life. I played long enough where I don't have to really do anything. Obviously football has its wear and tear on your body and things like that, but you look back on and feel like, hey, if I had to do it all over again, I still would do it the same way, nothing different. But I'm blessed where now I get to sit back and watch my kids, grow from kids to young men and to men. And so that's a great thing to be able to do.
Yeah. Now we're just waiting on some grandkids. At the right time. It doesn't have to be now, but grandkids at some point. So you know what? We can have them over. We enjoy them. We feed them. And then we say go home.
Look. Hold up, Dex. Speak for yourself. See, here's the deal, Dex. I'm trying to get all mine out first. Then I want to have like a couple years to myself. Then they can have grandkids. Then we can take them back home. All right.
That's true.
Get them all out the house first, Dex. Just get them out the house.
Step one.
I agree with you. That's me too, man. That's me too. But
better
do.
Yet, let's get them out the house and out my pocket.
That's true. That's true, man. I feel exactly like you do. But awesome.
Well, Derrick, I think there was a stretch there where you didn't give up a sack in like 26 straight games. You played all the way all through the 90s with the Niners, all the way through 2003. Talk a little bit about those years, what it was like to play pretty much every position on the offensive line. You were asked to play all over the line.
Yeah, I was kind of, I guess, the guy that you call that put out the fires wherever it was needed. And so some people say that hindered me a little bit. I believe it made me a stronger player. I believe it allowed me to do things that were special. To be a guy in the NFL who could say he played at every position along the offensive line, and including playing tight end, that's a remarkable feat in itself. But to be able to do it, like some of the times I tell people, like some of my best years are when I had to start at left tackle for 2 quarters and then move to right tackle for a quarter and then come back and play left tackle for the 4th quarter. So moving like that, I mean, that's a difficult thing to do, but I had the ability and the team trusted me enough to give me that job and say, hey, this is what we need you to do, and I did it. And so a lot of times, like I tell people, it's not about what you really want to do. A lot of times it's what the team needs you to do in order for the team to be successful. And so you got to be willing to do that sometimes. And, you never really get to concentrate on being the best at one position. And that's the thing I look back on and wonder, like, man, if I would have just been able to play, guard for, 10 years or 12 years straight, like what would have been? But once again, to be athletic enough to be still considered one of the smallest linemen in the league, and definitely be able to play all the positions, I think that says enough in itself.
Yeah, and Matt, that's why you can play, or he could play 14-plus years, because of his versatility to play all across the line. I mean, his value really in today's time, I mean, he probably would have to, I don't even know if they have a bank, to put his money in, because one, that is very, very valuable in today's game, and the quarterbacks that he blocked for, running backs that he blocked for, oh my goodness, we hadn't even gotten on that topic, but yeah, a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of running backs, including myself, truly appreciate the talent that he brought to the table, because it was remarkable.
Well, Derrick, I want to ask you kind of a 2-part question. During your time with the Niners, who were you closest to? And then as an offensive lineman, who was the toughest guy you ever had to block?
Well, I mean, my time as an offensive lineman, I mean, the guys that I hung out with the most were actually my group. I think as an offensive lineman, you have to be tight. The team only goes as far as the offensive line goes, and so we were pretty close as a group, and so we all hung out pretty much together. The Super Bowl year was like a mandatory thing that you had to do that, and then by the end of the year, Dion had everybody going out to one place, hanging out and eating all together. So it was like that brought the whole team closer. But for the most part, it was fellow offensive linemen. There were some, obviously, everybody got along. It's one of those things where I was a guy that, I wasn't, a fickle person. So, like, I didn't have, like, oh, I don't like this guy or like that guy or have a problem with this guy or that guy. I try to, make it where I got along with everyone. And if we didn't get along, it was probably something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Because I was more like a comedian kind of dude, just a jokester. Like to have a lot of fun and enjoy my time, and knew that what I was doing was something special. So I didn't really have an issue with that. As far as being the most difficult people, I think you said the block. Is that what you said?
Yep. Yeah. Who was your biggest challenge as from an opponent standpoint?
It's two people. One was the great Reggie White, and the other is John Randall.
Yeah, both of those guys were tremendous. Those would definitely be tough to block.
Great guys. Actually, John and myself, we were real good friends. And I was real close with Reggie also. But, it's the Minister of Defense was something else. And then Randall came in with his whole deal. And, he was always a talker and so forth. And still to this day, we still hang out and golf every now and then or whatever, but he's a real good friend of mine, and he deserves the respect that he gets. Once again, another undrafted guy, but became a Hall of Famer and got respect that he deserves.
Most definitely. I know that there are. There's one other thing I wanted to ask you. I heard a rumor that you were kind of legendary with Kevin Gogan for pranking teammates and staff. You got a story you'd like to share?
See, one with Kevin. I think the best one that I ever did, I don't think it was with Kevin. I think it was with Matt Willig. We actually had Tim Rattay arrested. Tim had just bought a new car, and he what he did was he didn't have license plates, and so he was talking one day in the locker room about, like, he thought maybe his car was, like, stolen because the plates had never came. And he was like, man, maybe I bought this car from somebody who stole it or something. And we were laughing and laughing. So the NFL was running a prank scheme, and so we decided that we were going to have him arrested for hit and run. So
that's
what
quite a prank.
We got the cops involved, and we had the cops come out, and we had the cops come out, and the cops actually set up scene. They had a tow truck come and put his car up on the tow truck. They put, like, these little marks on the fenders, and they waited for practice to be over, and then they rolled in with the lights blaring, And so Tim, they come into the locker room, like, hey, we need to talk to you. They get him outside because they don't want to do it in front of the team, kind of deal. Now all of a sudden cameras are rolling because the cameras were filming at practice, but these are actually cameras now he thinks are like news cameras rolling on him, but these are actually the joke cameras. And so they put him in cuffs. They tell him, hey, look, you're being arrested for hit and run. Your car was involved in a hit and run the night before, so on. He's screaming like, no. They're like, well, where's the registration? And he's like, it's coming, and he doesn't have it, and he can't prove anything. So they have him in his car for maybe like 5 minutes, and he's like in the back seat. And so, like, I come out and I'm like, hey, what'd you do, Tim? Like, just tell him, man, so we can get out of here. And he's like, I didn't do anything. And I mean, he's almost in tears. And so finally, Willig comes out, and we kind of laugh it off a little bit, and we're like, yo, man, you've been pranked. And
oh, man.
Coach Murray,
that's a brutal prank.
Everybody was in on it, man. It was like one of the best pranks we had ever put together. And I mean, you're talking about cops. Like, it was like 4 or 5 cop cars in the parking lot, lights on. Tow truck had its lights on. Car was lifted. Everything. It was done. It was a done deal.
Well, I'm glad I've never had to get pranked by you. That is brutal.
Oh yeah, I think. And then Kevin Gogan told me one of the worst I think that Gogs did was he took the car and he took the tires off. Had the car put on blocks. Put the tires for sale on the corner and filled it with Twinkies all the way up to the sunroof.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was. I guess that's how you had to eat your way home.
Oh man.
That's a great story, man.
That is outstanding. Well, one more question, and we'll let you go, as I know that time is running short. I know that you got kids. You got 4 boys, and so what else is keeping you busy these days?
Nothing. I volunteer, with helping them with sports and things like that, and like I said, that's really it. I said I'm real fortunate enough to really be blessed to just watch my kids develop into young men, and then watch them become men, and that's exciting. I like to watch them go out and do the things they want to do, and it's interesting to see kids make some mistakes, and you be there to guide them, and you have to hope that everything that you've instilled in them to a certain point, that they're going to use it. And so when they get to a certain level, a certain age in high school, you get to watch them use the things that they've been taught and the knowledge, and see if all the things that you've trained them, they've been paying attention to. And when they're not, then you get it corrected a little bit. But for the most part, I don't have problems with my kids, and nothing more than hey, you got to make sure you do your homework, that kind of stuff. But they're great kids. I'm fortunate enough where I can help other kids also, and be it's almost like a sounding board kind of deal. You can ask me and talk to me, and you need something and I can help you, I will. That kind of thing. It's a great situation to be in.
Matt, hey, that sounds like just a true role model right there, man. I'm proud of him as a player, as a teammate, and as a father, mentor, all of those things. As you see, he's still doing today. So, I'm proud of him.
Well, thanks very much, Derek, for taking time out to be with us. We appreciate your time, and it was great to reminisce about your career.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me on. Hey, Dex, man, I got nothing but love for you always. If you need me, you know where to find me anytime, any place, big dog, all right?
Hey, for sure, man. I love you. Hey, you need me, you know where I'm at too, man. So you take care and appreciate you being on the show.
Hey, much love. Y'all be safe.
All right.
Take care,
later.
Derek. Well, that was Derrick Deese, former offensive guard for the 49ers. As Dex has said, what a great guy. What a great role model, and what a great player he was for the 49ers.
Absolutely, man. It was we got the right one on the show today, man. I sure appreciate him coming on and just sharing his story. You always hear the ones that get drafted. You don't hear many of the stories like his, but there's many ways to get to, your dream. And today was definitely an example of his dream, and he definitely reached it. And I'm very, very proud of him.
Again, I want to thank everybody for listening, and we're going to sign off for now, but we will be back around training camp time. So for Dexter Carter, I am Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network, where the legends speak.